Hi guys, Ray from Whimsical Pictures here, and today I am bringing you, as promised, another tag video because I was tagged in a second tag, also by Laura at the Manga Order, so thank you for that. And that is the Booktubers I Love Tag. This was created by Anthony Andrews, and it's just a tag to talk about the other booktubers, and for me, manga tubers. It'll be mostly booktubers and a couple of manga tubers that we love and just share the love around the community. So without further ado, question number 1 is, who was the first booktuber you subscribed to? And that's really difficult for me because when I first found out that booktube was a thing, I sort of like mass subscribed to a whole bunch of people. So I just picked somebody who was definitely one of those. I can't say for sure that she was the absolute first, but she's the first one I remember. And that is Unmanaged Mischief, Sabrina, who mostly talks about literary fiction. She's not big on like YA or like genre stuff. And she, at the time that I subscribed to her, was talking a lot about Japanese fiction and Japanese literature. She doesn't talk about that stuff a whole lot now, but that was definitely a big draw when I first subscribed to her. I think that her perspective is really interesting. Even now, I still like click on her videos immediately when they show up in my subscription feed. I love hearing her opinions on books. I love hearing her talk about her current studies in library science. And I don't know, she's so eloquent and so calming to listen to. Definitely still one of my favorite booktubers. Number 2 is, who was the most recent booktuber you subscribed to? So I watch a lot of dumb stuff on YouTube, and I'm subscribed to a wide variety of different kinds of channels, which means that I have narrowed my booktube watching down to my absolute favorite people. So I don't subscribe to new booktubers that often, but I think that the most recent one would probably be Bonsai Reads, Sura, who talks not just about books, but also about manga. And I did subscribe to her primarily to hear her talk about shoujo manga. I think she is a really cute and vibrant personality. I love that you can see right on her face just how much she loves the stuff that she's talking about. And I think her videos have a really cute aesthetic that I like. So her vlogs are also really cute, especially with her siblings. Number 3 is, name 3 booktubers you love or want to shout out. So like I said, I've basically narrowed down my booktube watching to like my favorite people. So these aren't necessarily like tiny channels. Like they're not huge either, but like if you share similar taste in books to me, you probably know these 3 people. But these are, apart from Sabrina, probably 3 of my favorite booktubers. The first one is Jen Campbell. She talks a lot about literary fiction again, and she talks a lot about poetry and short stories, actually, which I really appreciate her perspectives on those. I also really love her perspectives on fairy tales. And about disability in media, and particularly the cross-section of disability and disfigurement in fairy tales. She has a whole series of videos about this, and they are fascinating to watch. Again, I find her voice and her cadence really calming to listen to, which is something I greatly appreciate in BookTube. I just like something that I can sort of calm down and like drink a cup of coffee or tea or whatever to. And she definitely falls into that category. And yeah, I just love her perspectives. I love how deep she gets into the stuff that she reads, especially like fairy tale motifs. Um, I've learned so much listening to her, and I've gained like a whole new perspective on certain methods of writing and methods of incorporating symbolism and metaphor that I would never have known about without her channel. I learn something new every time I watch one of her videos, which is great. Number 2 is Portal in the Pages. Uh, Again, she has a really calming voice, and a really calming aesthetic. I really appreciate that she not only talks about fiction, again, mostly lit fic, but she also talks about a lot of nonfiction books, uh, which I feel like get sort of skipped over by the booktube community a lot. And I really love getting nonfiction recommendations from her. There have been a lot of nonfiction books that I've added to my to be read list based on her recommendation. And I've also seen a lot of really good nonfiction titles that have gone around Booktube specifically because she shouted them out. So I really appreciate her perspective. She also had started, she's sort of like slowed it down and made it more of a sometimes thing, but she is working on this project that's like reading around the world, where she wants to read a book from every country in the world, and I have really enjoyed her wrap ups of those. She usually does 5 countries at a time in her wrap ups, and it's really interesting hearing her talk about them and recommend books, that are from countries that you never think about. I think that it's really good work that she's doing. And the third one is sort of a bit of a departure, but not that much. And this is a more recent sub for me. His name is Matthew Zaraba. He has sort of shorter, snappier videos. And for him, I absolutely love his sense of humor. His videos make me laugh so much. I love how like sassy he is and how he just does not care at all what anybody thinks about his opinion, but he's also like, you can tell he's still like a really kind and considerate person. And he has very good and well considered thoughts on the books that he reads. His taste is very different from mine, I would say. He does read some lit fic. He also reads some YA. He also reads some genre fiction. He kind of reads all over. But in terms of the things that he looks for, I think they're quite different from what I look for. But I appreciate that. I really enjoy hearing his perspective, and I enjoy all of the laughs that I get out of his videos. Number 4, if you could meet one booktuber right now, who would it be? I suppose there's probably a lot of people, not necessarily YouTubers, but like people I interact with on Twitter, who, I would love to meet and have a coffee with. In real life, I guess. Or show them around Matsuyama. If you're all ever in the area, I'll show you the farming part of Japan that you never see. I always want more people to appreciate and love Shikoku, because not even Japanese people appreciate or love Shikoku. Anyway, she's not a booktuber, she's a manga tuber, but I think that the person that I'd be most interested in sort of meeting in real life, I guess, would be Simply G. Just because we talk a fair amount on Twitter. If you follow us at all, you probably know that, like, at least in terms of our tastes in manga, we're basically the same person. We have very similar tastes in manga. So it would be fun to just sort of gush over manga with her. And I feel like more than that, it's quite rare for me to find people who enjoy engaging with media in the same way that I do. And by that I mean when I like fall in love with a work, the thing I do after I read it or watch it or whatever is like I want to get deeper into it. But for a lot of people, that might mean fan fiction or fan art. Um, and I think those things are fantastic, but they've never really been my thing. Instead, what I go to is I go and I read every single article and review that I can find about it, every interview with the creators. I research the heck out of the title. And that's just how I engage with media, and it always has been. Um, and, I don't, as much as I gushing over how cute this is or how romantic that is, a lot of times I want to talk more about the theming and, what the author is trying to say through the work and what the work means to me on a deeper level. And I feel like those are the kinds of conversations that I can have with G, and with like a select few of my other friends that I, I just don't find people who sort of enjoy engaging with media in that way, which is fine, different strokes for different folks. I don't think that any way of engaging with media is better than any other way. It's just, it's nice to find someone who engages with it in a similar way to you. And for me, in terms of like other YouTubers, that would be G. There's also the fact that just because we've talked more than I've talked with most other people on the internet, that, the chances of her being an axe murderer are, slightly less. Like, I feel slightly more confident about my chances there, which is always great. And number 5, who's your favorite YouTuber who's not a booktuber? Like I said, I follow a lot of like weird random channels about a lot of different things. So most of these are not like particularly small. They're mostly over 100K except for one subscribers. But I just wanted to talk about some of my favorite YouTubers. So the first one, she is the most popular person on here, but I had to mention her because like most of my sense of humor comes from her, and that is Jenny Nicholson. I just think she's hilarious. I love that she makes these long, rambling videos about just like the random niche stuff that she loves. She's super into theme parks. She's super into Star Wars. She's super into My Little Pony. But like the toys, not like the show, like the toys. And I just love that she so unabashedly loves things and is passionate about things, but also is just super sarcastic and hilarious. I just kind of want to be in a constant state of watching her videos. She's so funny. Number 2, I think this is the only one who's under 100,000 subscribers. This is my favorite Japanese language learning sort of channel. And his name is Aki, and he runs a channel called Sanbonjuku. And I think this is a great channel if you're intermediate to upper intermediate Japanese speaker, if you're working on the N3, the N2, or the N1. That is primarily who he targets. He does his videos entirely in Japanese, which is really helpful. He provides English subtitles and Japanese subtitles, so whatever you need to understand his content is available, but you can also use it as listening practice without any subtitles at all. He gives lots of very good sort of coherent examples of the grammar points that he's talking about. And the way he speaks is just, it's very clear. He speaks nice and slow. And he speaks, he'll repeat important phrases so that you can get it in your head and repeat after him and really get that cadence. I just find his videos to be very helpful. He has a JLPT series where he sorts each grammar point by which test level it's for. So he'll say N2, Tomokaku, or whatever. And he also has a series of listening practice videos that are just him talking about stuff in Japanese, and he will also put the level of Japanese in the listening practice as well. So everything's super easy to find in his channel. Yeah, I highly recommend it for other intermediate to upper intermediate speakers of Japanese. Number 3 is an art history channel called Smart History. This is just a group of art historians who go to different art museums and talk about different pieces. I really like their analysis of each work. Each video is just sort of short and sweet and goes over sort of the basics of the piece, as well as usually there's 2 speakers, so each of their personal interpretations of the work. And it's just really good, high-quality art history content, I think. I like that a lot. It's also not too Eurocentric, which I find a lot of art history channels are. They have been covering a lot of oceanic art, a lot of native art, a lot of African American art, a lot of African art. So yeah, just really cool. 2 more. I decided to limit it to 5. This is really hard for me. Number 4 is Errant Signal. I don't watch a lot of video game content on YouTube, but I do watch this guy, Errant Signal. I love his video game videos. I watch them the second they come out. He looks for a lot of the same things that I do in games, I feel like. In terms of he really likes a good atmospheric, weird indie game. He likes games that have a stronger story focus or stronger thematic focus. And he's not necessarily over-attached to combat. Not that he has anything against it, but he also plays a lot of games that aren't focused on combat or don't have combat as a major mechanic. And I really appreciate that as someone who also doesn't care about combat. So I just really love his perspective on games. I love that he talks about sort of the smaller games as well. And I don't play a lot of games, but most of the games I do play are recommendations from him, honestly. And number 5 is going to be a linguistics channel. This is Lang Focus. I love this channel. He does, he'll do a history of a language, where it came from, what we know about where it came from, and how it developed over time. He'll do language comparisons, I think he's done Spanish and Portuguese. He's done Mandarin and Cantonese. Most recently, he did one comparing Malay and Indonesian, which was really interesting. And just all kinds of really in-depth, cool linguistics videos. I learned so much from these videos, and it's so fun to see how different languages and different cultures around the world process words and sentences and meaning. It's really neat. There was a really recent video that he did that was so good about essentially why English is so mangled as a language. And it was really interesting and beautiful to see like him go into depth about all of the different weird origins of the English language. So that's another one I highly recommend. And yeah, so as you can see, I watch so much random crap on YouTube, and most of it is not book or manga related, but some of it is. So the last question in this tag is to tag 14 booktubers. I don't think I know that many booktubers to tag, but I will tag some people, booktubers and manga tubers, down in the description. So you can check down there to see if you've been tagged. But even if I didn't tag you by name, I have tagged you in my heart. So if you are a book or manga tuber, I consider MangaTube to be just a branch off of YouTube. Uh, of course, it's a branch off of YouTube. I consider it to be a branch off of BookTube. So if you are a book or a manga tuber, feel free to do this tag. I always love to see more love being spread around the community. So yeah, see you next time, guys. Bye bye.